Section 5 of the Open Public Meeting Act, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975. Be advised that adequate notice of this work session, regular meeting of the Township Council of the Township of Franklin, County of Somerset, was made by the posting on the bulletin board at the municipal complex and transmitted to the officially designated newspapers a list of dates annually indicating that this work session, regular meeting, would take place at the Franklin Township Municipal Complex at 7 p.m. on Tuesday, October 10th, 2017. In addition, a copy of this notice is and has been available to the public and is on file in the office of the municipal clerk. If we could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by an invocation given by Councilman Charles Onyejaka. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible.
Invocation. O God, the Creator and the Redeemer of all the faithful, hear our supplications, and through thy infinite love and mercy, graciously grant us the strength and the power in our thoughts and decisions to be the benefit of all people at all times. Amen.
Madam Master Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilman Chase, Councilwoman Francois, Mayor Kramer,
Here.
Councilman Onyejaka,
Here.
Councilman Prasad,
Here.
Councilwoman Robinson, Councilwoman Sherman,
Here.
Councilman Vasanella,
Here.
Deputy Mayor Wright.
The next item is commendations, Operation Shred volunteers. Are there any volunteers here? Oh, 'cause that's why you guys are here. Well, whenever the Boy Scouts are involved, I bring Councilman Vasanella along with me. He's a Boy Scout.
Public Works just before. Land use. Thank you, Mayor Kramer. So this is in recognition of yet another volunteer service the Scouts have provided and helped this town with. We thank you. Commendation, whereas our community relies heavily upon volunteer assistance and collaboration to provide services, and whereas the Operation Secure Shred program is sponsored by the County of Somerset and operates under the direction of the Township Clerk's Office, and whereas on Saturday, July 8, 2017, the following volunteers assisted the Township Clerk's Office in the Operation Secure Shred program: Scouts Alex Kakuzo, Sam Makowski, William Smith and Kyle Smith, and leaders Dave Kakuzo, Jim Makowski, and Randolph Zabo. Thank you. Now, therefore, I, Philip Kramer, James Vasanella, on behalf of Philip Kramer, the Mayor of Franklin, and on behalf of the entire Township Council of Franklin, County of Somerset, recognize these volunteers for their outstanding service to our community. As usual, a lot of times the Scouts that are involved will have a parent and sometimes two parents that are very involved as adult leaders, which of course we could not have a program without that. So if you want to say something real quick about the program, please.
Yeah, I just want to add my commendation to the boys. I mean, this year was a little lower in attendance than usual because it was they switched the date for Franklin Township. Like usually in September, and they switched it to July. so that kind of caught us off guard. And plus, it was the day before we were leaving for summer camp, so that a lot of scouts were getting ready for that. So that's why we had to usually have quite a bit more helping that day. But you know, one of the things they enjoy, they get the big shredding trucks, and they like looking at that. They like looking at the big trucks shredding the stuff, and kind of the stuff that people bring in, which are not always paper to shred. So they find these interesting things when they're helping people unload their cars. So, but I just want to commend the boys for they always give a good effort, especially that it was a hot day, and they give a real good effort, and as they always do. I'd like to thank you for.
Prasad is coming down. We have 3 presentations that Mr. Two. Ah, okay. So, doing Diwali first?
Come here, right behind the podium. We're going to read it and then.
How you doing?
Okay, great. So for Diwali, we have some of the leadership in the community here, and I'll ask some of them to speak about Diwali, but we have Mr. Suren Tiwari, Dr. Ram Tiwari of the Rutgers Medical School, and from the Princeton faculty, Vinod Gupta, Dr. Om Sharma from J&J, and also president of the Hindu Association, and Dr. KJ Sharma, and Govind Shishadri. KJ Sharma. Dr. Ganesh. So, we were able to assemble some of the community leaders here. And the proclamation for Diwali reads, whereas Diwali is a festival of lights during which celebrants light small oil lamps, place them around the home, and pray for health, knowledge, and peace. And whereas celebrants of Diwali believe that rows of lamps symbolize the light within the individual that rids the soul of the darkness of ignorance. And whereas Diwali falls on the last day of the last month in the lunar calendar and is celebrated as a day of thanksgiving and the beginning of the new year for many Hindus. And whereas for Hindus, Diwali is a celebration of the victory of good over evil. And whereas for Sikhs, Diwali is fated as the day that the 6th founding Sikh Guru or revered teacher, Guru Hargobind, was released from captivity by the Mughal Emperor Jahangir. And whereas for the Jains, Diwali marks the anniversary of the attainment of moksha or liberation by Lord Mahavira, the last of the Tirankaras who were the great teachers of Jain Dharma at the end of his life in 527 BC. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Philip Kramer and Councilman Rajiv Prasad, on behalf of the Township Council of the Township of Franklin, County of Somerset, and the State of New Jersey, do hereby recognize October 19th, 2017 as Diwali 2017 in the Township of Franklin and call upon its residents to observe and celebrate Diwali with various activities and programs to learn about its religious and historical significance. So with that, I'd ask Mr. Tiwari. Surinder, you're going to say something?
I'll say a few words. I'm Surinder Tiwari from 160 Bunker Hill Road. I know Mayor reminds us every time, where do you live, what's your name? So I hope I did it this time well. No, where's the mayor? Where's the mayor? But I do want to take a moment and sincerely thank the Honorable Council, and I mean that very sincerely, and our town administrator, Mr. Bob Bornlocker, for the proclamation. And a special thanks to Councilman Rajiv Prasad for his initiatives. In my opinion, the proclamation honors the diversity of our town. The diversity makes us strong with the strategy, with the synergy it creates. So I thank you for promoting that synergy and diversity through this proclamation. As you are aware, Diwali is the Indian tradition of celebrating light, and you heard in the proclamation as to how it is for every religion that came out in India: Jainism, Buddhism, Sikhism, and so on. There's a lot of buzz nowadays about Diwali. Almost every major city in the world, from Australia to US, has celebrated it or are going to celebrate it. It has been recognized in some states, I believe, in White House. So you know all that buzz. New York City had a gala celebration. I don't know how many of you watched Saturday. You went there in the Times Square. I know most of you watched it before Saturday Night Live, right? And before Mr. Trump tweets you started reading. Anyway, there are many stories behind Diwali, but I don't want to repeat them. You know all of them. I do want to take one moment and take you to the root of this. Many of you know Vedas, which are the basic principles and codification of how a life should be lived. And there are 3 slokas in it that tells Asato ma sadgamaya, mrityor ma amritam gamaya, tamaso ma jyotirgamaya. I know it's all Greek to you, but I will explain that, what it means. Asato ma sadgamaya means take me from untruth to truth. Mrityor ma amritam gamaya, that means take me from mortality to immortality. And the last one, which is very relevant today, is tamaso ma jyotirgamaya, from darkness take us to light. You know, that's a very poignant statement. From darkness to the light, which simply means give me the light of wisdom, Lord. Just give me the light of wisdom. That's the biggest thing we need. It is this light, the bright light, that pushes the humanity forward. The flash of light which made Einstein and Einstein, the light that made Edison and Edison. I don't know if you realize, but we are standing or sitting right here between those 2 giants which pushed the humanity forward, Einstein and Edison. Einstein a few miles south, Edison a few miles north, right? It was that light that made Gandhi a Gandhi, that made Dr. King a king. And many more who have pushed the human civilization forward. Yesterday was Columbus Day. Columbus must have had a flash of light in his head about how the new world will be. The new world which we call home today. We call home today. This was the light that told our founding fathers about a completely new form of government. Nobody knew this form of government. This was the light that flashed across Lincoln's mind when he uttered phrases like, a divided house can't stand, or charity for all, and malice towards none. Those were the moments of light. It is that light that we celebrate today in spite of all the stories that we know. Many people and poets have written about it, but I want to leave you with one quote from Eleanor Roosevelt. She said, it's better to light a candle than curse the darkness. Ladies and gentlemen, may God grant us all that light, that very light, that wisdom. May God bless you all. May God bless this great nation of ours.
Mayor Kramer, say a few words.
Well, I thank you for coming. Many familiar faces behind me. I go to many of their events, and I just think Franklin is a richer place for hearing things like this, sharing things like that, learning from each other. So I thank you for the light that you bring us.
Yes, simple. Happy Diwali to all. Thank you.
Just to add what you have heard about Diwali is one of the concepts which is coming from, again, from Vedic culture and Vedic scriptures. That Deepavali means, Deepam means a light or lamp, and Avali, originally it was oil lamps, and that means a small sun. So what it is saying, the Deepavali, the whole meaning of the word is that we all have the light of the sun, means we are little sun, and but we are part of that sun. Same way it goes in Vedas, it says the Atman and the Parabrahm, means the Supreme God. We are all same. So, and that brings the basic message that we all are, being in different form, are still one. Thank you. Happy Diwali.
Thank you all, and appreciate your coming, and have a happy Diwali, all of you, on the 19th, and appreciate your being here. Yeah, the next one is just to show the diversity of Franklin. We're celebrating the 200th birth anniversary of Baha'u'llah, the founder of the Baha'i faith. And we have a proclamation. There'll be a celebration on the 22nd, but since this was the meeting before the council meeting before the actual event, we're having this proclamation read. Whereas Baha'u'llah, born Mirza Hussain Ali Nuri, was born on November 12, 1817 in Tehran, and was the founder of the Baha'i faith. And whereas Baha'u'llah's teachings focused on the unity of God, religion, and mankind, and whereas on October 22nd, 2017, Baha'is around the globe will celebrate the 200th anniversary of the birth of Baha'u'llah, founder of the Baha'i faith. And now, therefore, we, Rajiv Prasad, Councilman, and Philip Kramer, Mayor, on behalf of the Township Council of the Township of Franklin, Somerset County, New Jersey, join the Baha'i community in commemorating the 200th anniversary of the birth of Baha'u'llah and celebrate his vision of justice, peace, revitalization of the material and spiritual life of all of its citizens, and collaborate with others to promote unity when serving our community. So with that, I would request Shirin Pushti, one of our young leaders and leaders in the Baha'i faith as well, but she's much more than that. She's one of our young community leaders, a doctor and pharmacist, and so we're proud of her. And please come and say a few words about Baha'u'llah.
So first, I just want to thank Councilman Prasad and Mayor Kramer, as well as the rest of the Township Council. So on behalf of the Baha'i community in Franklin Township, we are very honored to receive this proclamation. As mentioned, Baha'is all around the world, from Cambodia to Kenya to Canada to Chile, will be celebrating the 200th anniversary of the birth of Baha'u'llah this month. While you can find Baha'is pretty much anywhere you might look, we feel blessed to be in a community that embraces this momentous occasion. The fact that the township here itself officially recognizes diverse celebrations like this and like Diwali is really a huge step towards the type of unity and community building that the Baha'is strive to work towards. We are thrilled to live in a town that celebrates all of its people, and we hope to continue partnering with its leadership to work for a better future for tomorrow. Thank you.
Difficult for me to speak on something I just learned about. But I think what she points out is correct. Over 70 churches or houses of worship, forgive my colloquialism, over 70 houses of worship in Franklin, very little overlap. Again, another culture enriching us. And then Yulung, I first met her when she won an award at the JFK Scholarship, and she just keeps coming up and keeps contributing. I think we gave $500 or $1,000 towards her education, and she keeps giving back to the community over and over again. These are the kind of people I always think to myself, be very nice to them, because someday you may be working for them.
Thank you. The Kali Puja proclamation is actually to be read at the Kali Puja on Saturday, so that I would not be reading here. So thank you.
So we are now on to public discussion. Do we have a motion to open to public discussion?
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded, seeing no discussion on the motion. All in favor of opening to public discussion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. We are now open to public discussion. 5 minutes a person. No coming up twice. No yielding of time. Please state your name and address. Anyone wishing to speak, please come on up. Ms. Powell. You were late. You can't speak today. No, only kidding.
Linda Powell, excuse me, 22 Buffer Drive. First of all, I would like to thank Councilman Sherman and the rest of the people who worked on I wasn't here last week, about Franklin Day Festival. That was a fantastic festival. And I just hope that next year she orders about 10 degrees cooler, which is my favorite temperature. But the rest of it was perfect. As some of you know, I'm a member of the Franklin Township Task Force on the compressor station and pipeline expansion. And I want to read part of this that was put together by our steering committee, that we have 3 asks of the township. We ask the council to give instruction to the municipality to assign a resource to review over documents, mail, and communication that Franklin Township receives. To review forms and documents are filled out completely with required information. These would be the documents that we received from Williams. Consult with departments such as the fire, sewer, water, zoning, and health to ensure that permits are accurate and have considered the safety of residents and environment. This was a suggestion to hold some type of communication or weekly call with the Franklin Township Task Force Steering Committee for coordination and to ask for our assistance, and to determine if expert resources are required to ensure protection of residents, zoning laws, proper water and sewer use, etc. And also to ask if there's any upcoming events where we can help people send in applications to intervene or comments to the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, or where we could provide information and share our residents' concerns. And then there's also information about the types of issues like that impact the weather and climate change, chronic health conditions, concerned with benzene and other chemicals that are emitted by the compressor that aren't listed, as well as radioactive chemicals, environmental concerns, and of the global warming effect of the 123 tons of methane that is estimated just from leaking out of the compressor station should it be built. I also wanted to say I had the opportunity to hear some of the candidates for the Board of Education, and they were talking about this wonderful new school on Claremont Avenue that's very green and has solar and has other things that are going to be saving costs on energy and very health conscious. And what crossed my mind is that this school is within 5 miles of the site of the proposed compressor station, which is the heaviest pollution area in that 5-mile area. So that was very ironic. The other thing I just want to mention relating to some of the things we've heard about the various cultures in our community is I was filling out a job application actually with my former employer the other day, and under race I put human, and he thought I was kidding around. But the reality is really there is only one race. There's different, we may have grown up under ancient ideas that are no longer valid. So it is true that, for example, there are different features, like I have more hair than the mayor does, but and I'm also shorter. But otherwise, we really are all one race. And in saying that, I'm also part of a committee on immigrants' rights and justice that was started in this township and have been related to other things. And I think that we need to consider, I mean, what's happening in our country today is there are people being deported who have no criminal records. There are people being deported that are actual citizens. There are people being threatened with deportation that have grown up here, that it may be in high school or college or young working adults that are threatened with being deported to countries that they don't remember, don't speak the language of. There are people of Hispanic descent that may be from South America, and they're being shipped all to Mexico, not necessarily to countries of Oregon or to places where they have any family connections or may not even speak the language. And I think that we have to consider how we're going to protect our residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Powell.
Benjamin Guy, 35 Patton Drive. I know it's going to come up on the agenda now. One of my questions has to deal with the community block clearance process. I just need to know the difference, and I think you guys might explain this before, but sometimes we all get busy and get absent-minded. Is that the difference between what people submit for in the local town versus what the county pays for? Because there's two different block grants that are actually done in Somerset County, and I know one of them is for the town and one of them's for the county. So
actually, they're the same. They're funded by HUD. They're community development block grants. Because of the population of Franklin Township, once we exceeded 50,000, we were eligible to determine how our share of that community development block grant money is used in Franklin Township without having to make application to the county. Towns under 50,000 in population are administered by the county. We administer our own program.
Okay, so that answers one of the questions. But the other part of that question is that the allocation that is actually done for the community block grant for the year. How's that monetary value set from the state level, or I guess that's where it comes from?
Federal government determines how much money we receive.
Okay, federal government. And the approval. Do you know the approval number for this year?
I don't remember off the top of my head how much it is. It's about $240-some thousand.
Okay. All right. So the next part of my question is actually reports. I just want to get an update. Ms. Francois is not here currently today, but I just want to get an update on any other committee members that came to the teen community update for the youth center. I want to get a report. I know the actual liaison group that's actually working on it with the Board of Ed. Actually, they'll produce a report from what the youth have stated exactly what they feel about the community center. I already emailed this conversation to Mr. Vornlocker directly, but just want to get an update publicly. I'm just going to state it about the master plan and where we at with contributions from the town council and the other people, zoning, everybody else with the contributions to the master plan, because during when I look at the reports, there's no update on where we are with the master plan currently.
As you've been told before, Mr. Guy, the master plan is a product of the planning board, not the township council. You should address your concerns and questions to the planning board at their meetings. It's not a council function, it's a planning board function.
Excuse me, could you come back from the microphone? Because you sound muffled, and I want to be able to hear.
Okay. So is that better? Or a little bit? This better? Okay. All right. The one thing I also wanted to ask is that from Parks and Rec budget, I wasn't sure where we are with approvals for the budget for the year, because I know that we cycle off in I think is it August to August? Is that where we're?
No, we're a calendar year budget.
Calendar year budget. So the approvals for that already comes through. The last two things I wanted to ask is about open bid contracts for the fall. Is that reported on the website, Mr. Vornlocker? Is that for open bid contracts for like winterization projects or anything else? Is that done by the town?
All contracts, if there's contracts out to bid, they're on the website. If there's contracts that are awarded, they'll be on a township council agenda. I'm not following exactly what you're looking for.
No, I was just trying to find out what the process is for the fall.
For what?
For just general contracts, period, like winterization projects or anything else.
When you say winterization of what? I'm not
of
following.
vacant properties or anything else that happens in Somerset County.
There's no contracts for vacant properties. Vacant properties are owned by individual owners, and we hold them accountable per the property maintenance ordinance. They have to maintain their own properties.
So we don't do a winterization project in Somerset. Is that what you're saying?
No.
Okay. I'm comparing it to other towns. That's the only reason I'm asking.
I don't know what we would be winterizing.
Okay. And the last point is just the joint board of education meetings. Being that we have something to talk about with the purchase of the Consulate Ministry project, I was trying to see, are we continuing joint board of education meetings at this specific time frame? So that's the final conversation I actually want to talk about. Thank you.
If you stay, you'll hear some of the answers.
Anyone else wishing to speak?
Surinder Tiwari, 160 Bunker Hill Road. I just want to ditto what Linda just said about the compressor. I was not prepared to talk. I know we have, the council has supported this for quite a lot. Actually, I've been involved since August last year, so it's 14 months now. So I appreciate that. I appreciate Dr. Chej's initiative, Rajiv Prasad's initiative, on all your support. But I keep thinking about 124 tons of methane and all that benzene within 2 miles of crow flight to the schools. I don't know how we tolerate this. And I just want to leave that thought with you guys. And I hope we'll get that support. There are some practical things that needs to be done, like responding to FERC. And if you need any help, I'm a part of Franklin Township Task Force. I'll help, and others will help. So let me just stop it there. There's no point me taking the time. Linda has gone through this. But thank you again for the support, and hope we'll keep getting this support. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Good evening, Council. Chuck Toronto, 9 Westlake Court, Somerset. I am the president of the Franklin Township Baseball League, and I wanted to come before Council tonight publicly to thank you, thank the Recreation Council, and thank Open Space for the restrooms. We sorely needed them. We thank you so much. It's been greatly received already as we're in our fall season. And next year we start our 65th year. We actually have already started registration. We have 60 children registered already. We are the longest running youth organization in Franklin Township. Thank you. We cater to ages 4 through 18. Our 16 to 18-year-olds this past year won the Somerset Herndon baseball title. They played their championship game over at TD Bank Park. We have several tournament teams that travel around and play All-Star. Not sure if council is aware, but our property is used 8.5 months out of the year. We start in March with practices. We begin our season early April, as many of you know, if you come down to opening day. We continue into summertime with tournaments and all-star games, and then we go into fall ball, which goes to the second week of November. So that property is constantly used. And again, I wanted to come before you all and thank you all personally for the restrooms. Greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak?
Mayor, seeing no one else come forward, a motion to close the public portion of the meeting.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded, seeing no discussion on the motion. All in favor of closing public discussion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Public discussion is closed. We are now open for committee reports and comments. I will remind council that we have a staff member waiting for the executive session, so any brevity would be appreciated. Mr. Prasad, you may begin, please.
There are no committee reports. Admin hasn't had a meeting, the Community Foundation hasn't had a meeting, and land use, there's nothing to report, and that's about it. The Human Relations meets in 2 weeks or so, so that's it. Now, of course, we have events happening. The Canal Fest, Mayor will talk about that on the 14th, Saturday. He already got a haircut. Otherwise, I think, if we raised enough money, we have the joy of seeing him getting it shaved. But another thing that's happening on Saturday the 14th is the Dream Cricket Academy is actually challenging the women to a cricket match as a fundraiser for women's breast cancer awareness and research and cure. So that's going on at the Pine Grove School on that Saturday afternoon as well. And then, of course, we have the Kali Puja going on at the Franklin High School at 7 p.m. It's an all-day puja, but the culmination will be at about 7 p.m. So those are all the things that are going on. Ms. Powell, thank you for all your service and effort with the task force. We're there to help and support you. Of course, Mr. Tiwari is with the task force as well. And, I thank the council for all the help. And Chuck Torano, thank you for all that you do with our kids and, keeping them busy 8 months out of the year. That's fantastic. And with that, Mr. Mayor, thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Prasad. Councilman Ted Chase.
I don't really have much of anything to report. I would, one thing I'd say to Mr. Guy is, of course, we have an extensive housing rehabilitation program paid for out of the Housing Trust Fund. In fact, we have to spend a substantial fraction of our Housing Trust Fund on rehabilitation, and that may include winterization. I don't know whether it specifically does winterization, but it's the kind of thing that is done. And Ms. Powell, thanks again. We rely on you to come up with the most serious things that we should worry about the compressor that we may, put the township behind in telling FERC.
Thank you, Mr. Chase. No, you're the deputy mayor. You go second to last. Nope, sorry. Councilman Vasanella. Your
Thank,
Excellency.
thank you, Mayor. Just quickly mention Hamilton Street. We had our board meeting, the Hamilton Advisory Board. Quite a bit is happening there. Best way to get an understanding of what's happening there is literally to drive down Hamilton. But there's seriously, there's major projects in all different levels of completion. Then there's two new ones I'm not going to go into depth with because they're still working out the tweaks or tweaking them out, working out the details. They're presently moving through the planning board. I'm not sure if they have to go through zoning also. We get briefed on them as the advisory board from the executive director, who also was at all planning board meetings. So everything is being watched closely and being reviewed with the considerations of the streetscape and the community and the neighborhood, meaning we want things to look good aesthetically and blend and all be part of a community revitalization over there. So anyway, a quick mention, there was a cupcake shop, bake shop. I believe the mayor, Councilman Chase, myself, I'm not sure if any other council person was there. I apologize if I'm forgetting anybody. A few weeks ago, there's wonderful little surprises like that that are popping up on Hamilton Street. Gourmet cupcake shop, if you have a sweet tooth. But the main thing I want to mention as far as events with that, the trunk or treat, I know it's talked about by Councilwoman Francois, that's coming up on the 28th. Probably one of the biggest events we have for children, geared towards children, although the adults seem to have a ball too. That's the 28th from 1 to 6 in the big parking lot next to the community firehouse, also known as the John's Plaza parking lot, although John's store hasn't been there in quite some time. The mayor and Councilman Onajaka attended with myself a Eagle Scout Court of Honor. A little shout out to Morgan Murphy, who was Troop 154, and I think one of Franklin's newest Eagle Scouts. Troop 154 is sponsored by our PBA. And not besides the parents, it also takes a sponsoring group to keep these organizations functioning. Anyway, just want to acknowledge that and thank the mayor and Councilman Onajaka for coming. And as far as the Little League, I almost embarrassed you thanking us, quite honestly, because like it was mentioned, what you guys do is just unimaginable as far as how long you've been doing it and how modest you guys are about doing it, and look forward to helping future keeping up with and upgrading some of the facilities there. And that not just benefits the Little League, but benefits the entire township because it's all township-owned land. And just to also mention, they don't talk about it much, but that the group down there that runs the Little League, they make sure, regardless of a child's capability to pay, because there is a fee, of course, involved with registering for the year and playing, that one way or another, what I understand, they make a point of making sure every kid gets to play, regardless of whether or not they could afford the registration fee. So they not only do a lot, they're quite modest and humble about what they do. And thank you, Linda, for keeping up with these issues that are really important to Franklin. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Charles Onijaka.
Okay, Mayor. I don't have much, but to wish the Indian community of Franklin, I'm wishing them happy Diwali, and you know that 25% of that community is in my ward. So I wish them happy Diwali and have good fun and enjoy their feast. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilwoman Sherman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So there were actually two meetings this week, I think it was not last week, and this week for the youth center. And I attended both of them. One was to bring the youth together to see what they were looking for in the youth center. And about 45 young people showed up, and it was held at First Baptist Church. They were very forthcoming in what it was that they wanted. Most of it was within reason. A pool was not, but that was not what this facility is for. But it, physical, weightlifting, running, gym, those kinds of things, and then an audio studio, a video studio, things that will really capture the energies of our young folks. So I'm not sure that we can do all of them, but we can do a lot of them. There was a second meeting with the architect, and actually he ran the meeting with the kids, and so it kept a log, and I think of what they asked for. Many of these things, I'm told, are on the website, so don't go by me. I heard that. I've not looked for it, but it's somewhere. Maybe our manager knows where to locate it. So the second meeting was with the architect and some of the other people, stakeholders in the program, the library being one of them. And and one of the things that will be in the building will be not anything like the main library, but a library that will be functional for the kids who have homework. They can borrow books. There will be some quiet rooms. There will be tables there, and then there will be an outside door so that residents in the area, particularly some of the people in the senior communities who would like to who can get there and use the library facility there. So that's a very nice addition to the building. Probably it's going to be two-story building, a lot of glass, a lot of openings so that you can see what's going on. Everyone can, sort of be one big happy family. A lot of programs, and also there's going to be an outside area for the young folks too. Places where they can sit and meet and talk, or a garden. I forgot all the details, to tell you the truth, and perhaps our manager can fill you in on it, but some of them issues. But it really sounds like it's going to be a very beautiful, a very modern, a very warm and open building. And I think it's something that's going to let our youth know that we are very interested in their welfare. We want them to have a beautiful building, and in return, we expect them to respect it and to follow the rules. And I think those are important issues and in fact, there was a suggestion that there be a contract with the kids saying, that we will offer you all of this, and we expect this and this and this, and if you don't abide by those rules, we have the option to say you're not welcome back again. And I think that hopefully should get through to the young folks there, but I hope that we won't have any of those issues. It can happen. So there's a great future coming for the kids there. I think they're going to be very happy with the building, and I think they will utilize it. There's no reason not to. So the excitement will grow as we get closer. They're into the phase now where I think they're going to start to design the building. The concept, the first blush of the concept, and it's all fluid. It can change. This is a very early stage, so it's happening. And the year or two, we may really see a building, and it'll be great for the youth. After the Franklin Day Festival, there's the after meetings, which I've held two of them. One is the one you have as fast as you can after the event, just to say, okay, what went right, what went wrong, what do we want to change for next year, and we have a pretty long list of things that we want to do. We also had a traffic meeting, and I was really very pleased in the traffic meeting, although there was some sense that there were issues, and definitely there were, in the parking, and we're going to correct that for next year. Our traffic, Eric Hagman, Sergeant Eric Hagman was there, and what he did, which I thought was wonderful, he came at both entrances at different times, obviously, from Elizabeth Avenue and from Mettler's, and he said that he was not delayed more than 15 minutes in each direction getting into a parking area. So that's really good news. Things actually moved ahead quickly, because last year I remember people talking about a 40-minute delay. So with the improvements we'll put in for next year, it will be even hopefully faster than it was this year. So we have several more meetings set up just to try to smooth things for next year and get them lined up and make sure we're ready to go as soon as the year turns and it gets to be that the busy time starts building. I did attend an event at the middle school and was part of the Youth Alliance group where they had prizes they were giving out in order for people to answer one of their questionnaires, which they use for documentation for various grants that they submit. So that was a fun night, getting to see and work with the children and get them involved in the process. I attended also, today was a ribbon cutting at Central Jersey Prep on Mettler's Lane. They've taken over a facility that was an Exxon facility at one time. And from what I could see, the building is pretty occupied. So they're obviously attracting students, and their blue ribbon status has certainly helped that. And that's my report. Thank you.
Am I to interpret your report as a commitment from you to be involved in Franklin Day next year?
There are certain things I'm going to do. I understand.
So I'll take that as a yes. All in favor?
Now, I have committed to certain things. I will continue to do the fundraising because no one in the township can do it, and I don't mind doing it. So watch out, you guys. I'm coming after you for money.
Thank you, Councilwoman, with that word. And now, what we've all been waiting for, the Deputy Mayor, Carl Wright.
Mr. Mayor, no report.
You are my favorite speaker of the night.
One other thing, Mr. Mayor.
Knew it?
I knew it was coming. Township manager, put his head down like, really? Oh, no, the one thing that, and I'm more sure our council will speak to that because he understands it, is that someone asked me about the redevelopment agency, where does it obtain its funds from? And I just wanted to let them know it did not come out of the coffers of Franklin Township. So you do not pay for the redevelopment agency. It pays for itself through the redevelopers who give us the money. So the attorney fees, the auditors, everything, if we do a review, all those things are not paid by the township, but they're paid by those that would do the redevelopment. So let me put your mind at ease. The township does not pay for redevelopment. Thank you. You have any questions? I have none.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So for my comments, bathrooms, I'm glad you were thrilled with them. We are thrilled that you were thrilled. I just wanted to say, well, it wasn't a hard sell, and council, all of council was in favor of it. It's one of those things that can wind up on a back burner, but Councilman Vasanella would not allow that. So I can't say it wouldn't have happened without him, but it sure did happen because of him, if that makes any sense. Looks like you did a good thing there, Councilman.
Thank you, Mayor. Sincerely, thank you.
I think they referred to that as like a guardian angel.
Yes.
Is that
I think
sort of kind of what it's like?
I think that's the perfect way to put it.
I have no wings.
Mr. Guy, so the confusion you may have about the budget is, yes, it is a calendar year budget, which we pass about a third of the way into the year because this is New Jersey. And that's not laziness on our part. For one thing, we can't do our budget until the governor decides how much money will be going to towns, because that's a significant portion of our budget. So, and it is the law as to when we submit, the law as to when we pass it. So we are somewhat in the blind for the first several months of the year. That's why it can be confusing as to what calendar year or what type year-wise budget we have. As far as the joint council BOE meeting, I will not get into specifics or details because nothing is in concrete, but I am expecting that there will be some agreement between council or the municipality and the school district about a portion of that land, the sharing of buildings, or the passing of buildings. A community center has been talked about, and we still have great interest from the YMCA that's outside of the Board of Ed in that property. So really good things. Again, I think one of the most outstanding land purchases that we have been involved with since I started coming here 14 years ago. Canal Fest. Well, I came in 2003. I started attending meetings. Making trouble coming up to that mic, which was over there. Canal Fest. So that's this Saturday. It looks like we are going to have great weather, according to AccuWeather, 77 degrees, pleasant and warm periods of clouds and sun with a real feel of 79 degrees. This will be 7 years in a row. We've had at least acceptable weather for it. A lot of planning has gone into this, and good point, Councilman. Let's knock on some wood there. And it's going to be great, as it always is. A lot of activities for kids, a lot of good food, a lot of vendors, and I will be there most of the day. I will break off for a short time. For anyone who has pets, at about 1 o'clock on Saturday, there will be a ceremony so that you may bless your pets. I will be there observing that, not doing the blessing. But you know how I am with animals. And then again, Ms. Powell, thank you. You are a champion and a hero, and you have others working with you too. But thank you for keeping us informed. As with our busy schedules, it's difficult to always do that, and you have the details and the important details that are useful to us. So that concludes my comments. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have several things to report on. One, as well as the Pumpkin Patch Festival, the Trunk or Treat on Hamilton Street on the 28th. The township is also sponsoring a pumpkin patch and trunk or treat, because there's never enough trunk or treats, on Sunday, October 29th in Middlebush Park. So after you get your fill of candy on Hamilton Street on Saturday, come get another handful of candy on Sunday at Middlebush Park. Games, pumpkin decorating, prizes, and all around fun. You are asked to bring a non-perishable food item for donation to the Franklin Township Food Bank.
What time?
And that is from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. on Sunday the 29th, right here in Middlebush Park.
And the Johns?
The Johns one is 1 to 6, as Councilman Vasanella said on Saturday. So, tomorrow night, for those of you who have
what'd you say about Middlebush? You're going to do the trunk or treat there?
Middlebush Park, Sunday, the 29th of October, trunk or treat, 1 to 3, in conjunction with Pumpkin Patch Festival.
You're not walking on my field, are you?
Like I said, Pumpkin Patch Festival. All right, moving on. Financial literacy workshop will be held here in this council chambers tomorrow night, October 11th at 7 p.m., a program that's being sponsored by the Somerset Community Action Program in conjunction with our Community Resources and Services Department of the Township. Learn how to make a debt plan that will prioritize what you owe and get it paid off faster, improve your net worth, and learn the importance of building assets. Understand how retirement plans, savings accounts, and investments are assets that can build financial security. This is the first in 3 workshops that will be held here on October 11th, November 8th, and December 13th, being sponsored by SCAP and the Township. So if you have a desire to do that, come on out and learn about finances. Scanning through the different things here, so bear with me. I have, on behalf of Councilwoman Robinson, a brief report in her absence that she emailed to me. She asked that we all remember and celebrate the life of our recently deceased fire commissioner from Fire District Number 3, John Burns Sr., who passed away suddenly this past week. So remember him and his family in your thoughts. She also asked me to remind you all about Trunk or Treat, which we all did already. She said that the housing authority on which she sits meets tomorrow, and that on October 26th, she will be swinging a hammer on behalf of Habitat for Humanity at their newest home that is being constructed here in Franklin Township. And she asked that please excuse her absence as she is away visiting her daughter who gave birth this past week. So congratulations to Councilwoman Robinson and her daughter. Okay, so that's that. And the last, I like good news, and this is good news, and it will be followed up at a future council meeting with a little bit more pomp and circumstance. But I'll just read to you a brief bit of a press release that will be going out, Mr. Bowman, I believe tomorrow. The township recognizes Ms. Diane Leach Thompson, the Franklin Township Community Resources and Services Director, for receiving the Social Worker of the Year Award. This prestigious award was presented by the National Association of Social Workers on September 25th for Thompson's outstanding clinical work with children, teenagers, and adults. NASW is a diverse organization that promotes, develops, and strengthens the professional practice work carried out by social workers to alleviate the conditions of those in need of help or welfare. Diane's work on the Summer Youth Employment Training Program, the Child Care Program for Single Parents, the Girls to Pearls Group, as well as the Municipal Welfare Program exemplifies the mission of the NASW. So congratulations to Diane. I'm very, very proud of her. Diane works very, very hard, and sometimes it flies under the radar, and I think a lot of that has to do with being in another location away from here, but certainly we all appreciate the work she does, and she does a great job at it. And obviously the highest recognition is when you're recognized by your peers, and to be chosen as their Social Worker of the Year is a mighty fine accomplishment for Diane, and we should all be very proud. And like I said, Diane will be here at a future council meeting where you can all congratulate her personally. And that's all I have, Mr. Mayor. Oh, well, I have one other thing. Just to prove, Mr. Mayor, that you're right, sometimes people watch the TV channel. A more appropriate term would have been the what did I say for Councilman Vasanella? Was it a guardian angel? It would be more patron saint, I believe, is probably the more advisable, and that would be coming from Bill Connell.
Bill Connell. Yes. How could I guess? Bill Connell.
Bill, you got credit.
Okay. Okay, we are now moving on to the approval of the minute notes, of which there are none. Next will be approval of the warrants in the amount of $10,744,380.52 on October 10th are presented to the Township Council for payment. Do we have a motion on the warrants?
So moved.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion, any question on the warrants? Seeing none, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Mayor Kramer?
Yes.
Councilman Oni Jaka?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sherman?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Wright?
We have no public hearings and second readings. We do have an ordinance first reading. Ordinance 4212-17, an ordinance to amend the code of the Township of Franklin, County of Somerset, State of New Jersey, more particularly Chapter 226 Vehicles and Traffic, Section 236-30, on-street handicap parking space, delete 234 Lake Avenue. The foregoing ordinance is presented to the Township Council for adoption on first reading, posting, publication in accordance with law and public hearing, and final adoption on Tuesday, October 24th, 2017 at 7 p.m. at the Municipal Complex. Do I have a motion?
Motion for introduction.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. So this is just the retiring of a handicap parking space outside of someone's home. This happens when the person is no longer living there, or perhaps maybe because they no longer need one. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Mayor Kramer?
Yes.
Councilman Oni Jaka?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sherman? Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Wright?
We're now on to the consent agenda, items A through I. How short was last month's? Went
G,
didn't it?
I think last.
I think last was G.
Okay, so we're a
Kinda
little longer
short.
than that. These are amazingly short. Items A through I, as listed on the consent agenda portion of this meeting, are presented to the Township Council for adoption. Do I have a motion on the consent agenda?
So moved.
Moved
Second.
and seconded. Any discussion? Anyone like to ask about one or pull one? Seeing none, Madam Clerk?
Councilman Chase.
Yes.
Mayor Kramer.
Yes.
Councilman Onijaka.
Yes.
Councilman Prasad.
Yes.
Councilwoman Sherman.
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Wright.
We now are on to item number 15, items to be voted on separately, which we can actually vote on them all together. But essentially, these are consent agenda-like items that were added to the agenda after the initial publishing of the agenda. They are items 15A through F, as listed on the agenda of this meeting, are presented to the Township Council for adoption. Do I have a motion on the
Motion
voted
for
on-
passage.
Moved? Do I have a second?
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? No one wants to know about the guillotine pipe cutter?
I was just looking at that.
Yeah. Seeing no discussion, Madam Clerk, we are voting on all of these together. Madam Clerk?
Councilman Chase.
Yes.
Mayor Kramer.
Yes.
Councilman Onijaka.
Yes.
Councilman Prasad.
Yes.
Councilwoman Sherman.
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Wright.
We're getting ready for Bastille Day.
Bastille Day, guillotine. Although he's out of season. Okay, old business. Yes, I know. I said he's out of date. Old business, 2017 boards, commissions, committees, vacancies. I see a hand up.
Mr. Mayor, I would like to nominate Jenny Ann Kirschner for the Environmental Commission, the vacancy caused by the lamentable death of former Chair Arnold Vernick. You had her citizen leadership forum at our last meeting, and she attended a meeting of the Environmental Commission and contributed quite well. So she is employed with the Stony Brook Millstone Watershed Association, which is certainly a good link for the Environmental Commission to have.
Seconded.
Thank you for your second. No seconds required. Any other nominations for that position? Hearing none, by acclamation, all in favor of that nomination, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Congratulations. Any other nominations?
Mr. Mayor, if I could just interject here and ask the master clerk over there at the other side of the room a question. She and I received an email along with a form for a position on the Hamilton Street Advisory Board. Ed Chandler, who is the representative from Levin Properties on Hamilton Street, is no longer the representative for Levin Properties, and there's a new employee who should be appointed to the advisory board. I'm just not sure what the advisory board process for appointment is. I think it's a council appointment.
It is.
Go ahead, Mr. Vassell.
Yeah, I'm
I
sorry
want
to
you to
interrupt you.
answer.
It's a council appointment, just in past years. I read that and saw that, what you're referring to, and realized what I thought it was, as you're suggesting it is. Usually the advisory board, at least some of the times over the years, would sometimes make a recommendation to council or ask one of the council people, there's four of us, to to nominate somebody. So I'm fine with nominating them. Just as a courtesy, I was going to wait until the
No, I was
board.
going to say, if you want to go for the first meeting in November, and that your meeting in November for Hamilton Street Advisory Board, and then bring it back to council, then you could take care of it. I only brought it up because it was brought to my attention late last night, and so it was not enough time to get to anyone for it today.
That's what I had planned on as a courtesy to the board, since
Sounds
it
good.
came up since that meeting I was at last Monday. So if that's okay, and maybe
I don't see any reason why I can't wait till next month.
Even if he's not officially appointed, he can come to that meeting and participate as in certain ways as a member of the public.
There's my answer.
Anyone else?
Thank you, Madam Chair, for reminding me of that.
Yeah, we're actually going through renewals as well of people's terms that are expiring, and the Human Relations Commission, all those that are expiring have expressed an interest in renewing. Now, whenever we want to do that,
We do that at the January meeting.
1st of January, okay.
Yeah. You usually get all the stuff after the election.
Yes. Madam Clerk, someone did submit for cable, and I don't remember. If you can resend me that so I can nominate them next time. We do have 2 openings. So just briefly, for anyone watching, we have openings on the Agricultural Committee, Cable TV Committee, the environmental one was just filled, Hamilton Street we just talked about, Historic Preservation, Housing Authority, Local Energy Team, Brereton and Millstone River Flood Control, Rent Leveling Board, Senior Citizen Advisory Committee, and Sewage Authority. Seeing no other nominations, we are going on to executive session. I only have 1 item here, but I'm informed that there are 2 items. So we're going into executive session for at least, so it was added there? Okay, so for 2 reasons. Resolution 17403, authorize executive session, litigation, affordable housing, litigation, and I'm sorry, it is here. Affordable housing litigation and Williams Transco pipeline. So there's, okay. So the videographer doesn't get to leave this time because we may be taking action after the executive session. Do we have a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on going into executive session? Seeing none, Madam Clerk?
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Mayor Kramer?
Yes.
Councilman Onijaka?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sherman?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Wright?
So we will now be going into executive session. I can't predict how long we will be. We will come out and we will resume, and the video will resume at that time. Thank you. Do we have a motion to come out of executive session?
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded, seeing no discussion, all in favor of coming out of executive session, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. We are out of executive session. The floor recognizes Councilman Chase. The floor, the chair recognizes Councilman Chase.
Item in executive session was whether to approve a settlement of our affordable housing litigation, which has been negotiated.
Do you wish to amend the agenda?
Okay. Therefore, it is necessary to amend the agenda to enable council to act on this recommendation.
Do we have a second on amending the agenda? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. The agenda is amended. Do you have a motion, do you have an item that you wish to motion on?
I wish to direct the manager, well, really, council to accept, for council to approve the settlement of affordable housing litigation, I think is very good as settlement.
No, this is not the time for comments. So we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. So I'm going to let the attorney start off the discussion, and then Councilman Chase, I would love to hear your comment.
Mr. Mayor, as I have been reporting to council over the course of now, it's probably 2 years, Franklin was one of the few municipalities in the state who had actually achieved third-round substantive certification for their Mount Laurel Fair Share housing plan. Because of the inaction of COA on their failure to adopt rules and, in fact, their failure to meet, the Supreme Court stepped in a decision which is now known as Mount Laurel 4 and directed that all of the municipalities in the state had to file declaratory judgment actions and seek court approval of their Mount Laurel or their affordable housing plans. Franklin, in fact, did that. There has been a number of counties that have had extensive litigation. We have been working with a special master that was appointed by the Superior Court, waited for some of the litigation to the smoke to kind of clear, and we have now met with the special master and the Fair Share Housing Coalition, who is a public interest, a not-for-profit group that was given intervener status in all of the Mount Laurel litigation. And we've worked out a settlement, and the settlement is essentially approval of our third round of plan. It has some other compliance mechanisms that we will flesh out as we go through the process. But essentially it allows us to have a housing element to our master plan that has a affordable housing component in it, but doesn't require us to rezone any of the township for new housing. And of course, the reason we want to avoid doing that is whenever we have to rezone land for one affordable housing, we have to give 4 market rate housing. So it becomes a very detrimental exercise for the township. So we are asking the council today to authorize the manager to sign that settlement. The process will be we will then submit it to the court and have what's known as a fairness hearing. All interested parties will have a chance to comment on it. Once we get through the fairness hearing, we will then have 120 days to pass whatever legislation is necessary to put us in full compliance. Most importantly, the adoption by the planning board of the master plan amendment and the approval by the council of our spending plan.
So you said detrimental to the township. Can you please?
So
spell that out?
this is a negotiated settlement, and the negotiated settlement reduces the potential number of affordable units by something in the range of I think 500 or 600 units, which would have meant 5 times that many number of new housing units if we were to litigate. And of course, we don't really know what the exact number would be. The Fair Share's original number was, fairly astronomical for the township, as it is for many towns. There is also litigation over whether or not there's a 1,000-unit cap and a host of other things that could just add to the number of new units we'd have to build. We have 4 interveners, all of whom own substantial pieces of land in town, all of whom have taken the position that they could be sites for affordable housing. So we would have to battle ultimately, if we didn't have to, effectively builders' remedy lawsuits over building on those lands. And if we never settled this case, ultimately a judge would rezone the township for whatever the appropriate number of units were. So it allows us to stay in control of our fate. It allows us to continue on with what has been, 20 years of very sound planning principles in the township, and without, effect on infrastructure and loss of, open space.
Thank you. Councilman Chase, you had a comment.
Well, I would simply say, having followed closely our attempts to meet various COA rules in 2005, 2009, I think this is a very favorable settlement because it would protect the town for at least the term of the third round of affordable housing consideration from any builder's remedy suits without requiring us to allow developers to develop any land which is not currently zoned for development. We will continue to build affordable units, particularly in the redevelopment area, but with what we built, or what was built in the town through the period of the various COA rules and continuing after our substantive certification, we've had more affordable units built beyond what we had in our substantive certification. That is what has put us in a position to be able to accept this agreement.
I will. So, Mr. Attorney, Mr. Ranone, could you name some of the properties that we might be at risk under builder's remedies?
Well, once again, without going to naming all of the properties in town, there are 4 properties, as I mentioned before, who the property owners have filed for intervention. They are the Bunker Hill Golf Course, the plot of land that is in front of the Bunker Hill Golf Course on Bunker Hill Road.
Commonly known as Starlight Meadows.
Starlight, it's had a number of owners, but that's
Right, that's the most recent.
We have the Veronica Bennett's property, which is well known to all of us, and then there's a 4th parcel that is owned by Anatole Hiller that I believe is in the vicinity of the other projects.
It is. It's across Metlers from Canal Walk. It's at the corner of Metlers and Schoolhouse.
Correct. So those are four people who have intervened as of now, and they're, as you know, the Bunker Hill Golf Course itself is a couple of hundred acres. So
It is.
There's substantial and real properties, and all of those property owners have represented to the court that they are properties that can be built for housing. So right off the bat, Mayor, that would be the start.
Thank you. Any other questions? Mr. Manager, a question came up. Are you aware of us being over our required allotment? In other words, we have more affordable housing than we were required to get?
So when there were the subsequent rounds of affordable housing, in the 3rd round, which was the last round where we did receive approval from COA, and I don't want to repeat the whole story that Mr. Ranone just gave you, which was very detailed. We were able to receive credits from the 2nd round. I think 95 is the number that sticks out in my
97,
head. 97 unit credit towards round 3, but now in round 3, we have obligations going forward. It's just that we have planned development, both in and out of the redevelopment area, that include affordable housing components that will satisfy our round 3 obligations. But I know I've heard people saying that we're 20% over what we were obligated to have. That's just simply not true. We are meeting our obligation. We're not exceeding our obligation. We're meeting our obligation with planned development in the future to satisfy our round 3 obligations according to this settlement agreement.
Correct. And remember, once again, we talk about credits, but we have to put everything in a time frame. The 3rd round, really, there's a gap period, and then there's a 3rd round, starts in 1999. So effectively, what that says that as of 1999, we had 97 credits going into the next 25-year period. Well, we're 15 years into that next 25-year period. So when we talk about having credits, it's not like as we sit here today, we have more units than what we need. That's just simply not true.
No, actually, as we sit here right now, according to our 3rd round obligations, we still have an obligation to build additional affordable units to meet our 3rd round obligation.
Which will be built over the next 10 years.
Exactly. And many of those units are in developments that have received approval with an affordable component.
Correct.
Any other discussion?
One other piece of this, and I just want to make sure before we finish it, and I actually neglected to say it in closed session, there is an agreed upon $5,000 payment reimbursement for fees to the Fair Share Housing Coalition. That is, it's something that kind of came late in the game. It's something that this is a not-for-profit that does all of this litigation. There are municipalities in which they are getting $40,000 or $50,000 fees. $5,000 is basically the minimum that all of these settlements have, and it's they actually are helpful to us in terms of getting our plan in compliance, so it's not, I don't, it's certainly not, from our point of view, it wasn't a stumbling block to the settlement. We did ask them not to take it, though, not for nothing.
So the motion is to approve the settlement, and there would be a resolution at the next meeting that we would
No.
approve, or no?
No, you wouldn't need to, just authorizing the manager to sign it, we'd just
Okay.
memorialize it with a resolution.
All right. So, seeing no other discussion, Madam Clerk?
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Mayor Kramer?
Yes.
Councilman Oni Jaka?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sherman?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Wright?
Councilman Chase, you wanted to discuss something
The
else?
other matter that we had for executive session discussion was whether to approve essentially having a retainer fund if we wish to hire an environmental firm to review any matters with respect to the Williams-Transco compressor project that we feel deserve the attention of certified expertise that we might wish to bring before the Department of Environmental Protection when a filing is made to them by Williams-Transco. Our manager informs us that we have an environmental firm already on retainer for other matters, and therefore all we really need to do is say that we can spend up to $25,000 under that or approval that has already been made if we need an expert witness with respect to the Williams-Transco compressor applications. So we don't really need to vote on anything now.
No, this is essentially a direction to the manager. Anyone who wishes to not direct the manager in that way, speak now. Seeing none.
Very good.
The manager has his direction. I believe that concludes all the matters before the council. Do I have a
Motion to adjourn.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. We are adjourned. Be well, Franklin.